for joining us. And for the next 50 minutes or so, we are looking at the state of the nation, state of the floods, and the NADCO report, that the National Dialogue Committee report that we are expecting. Of course, it has drawn a lot of mixed reactions. We're going to be looking at that. But we are talking about 50 minutes. The reason I said 50 minutes is because we are also televising the Sekafa Under 18 tournament right here on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner. Kenya today is playing against Rwanda. And very quickly, let me just give you where we are exactly now. Kenya beat Sudan 5-0. Somali was beaten by Rwanda 1-0. Tanzania won against Uganda 1-0. Zanzibar won against South Sudan 1-0. A tantalizing match that will be in the next 50 minutes or so. So in the next 50 minutes or so, I'll be engaging my panel of experts. At least I have one here in studio. His name is Oscar Omondi, who is a political analyst and also a political researcher. And let's first of all, before I introduce him, let's first of all look at the flood situation. The government talked about over 70 people have been killed. Yesterday, I remember having a conversation with one of the directors of the Kenya Red Cross, talking about the number being in the range of 97 headed to 100, talking about there are 106 camps that have been earmarked for aid and relief, because a lot of people have relocated to safer grounds. 97 people have been killed as a Red Cross. We're talking about 24 schools have also been washed, over 13,000 livestock, and we are talking about over 100,000 people affected, with over 40,000 houses already washed. So that is the current situation in regards to the floods, and 38 counties have been affected. And as you can see from the videos on your screen, especially in the northern region of the country, the Red Cross is talking about asking for aid of at least 3 billion shillings. Well, the government yesterday, in a statement that was read by the State House spokesperson, he said that the counties received about 10 billion in equitable share, and in this week they also gonna get a 10 billion in equitable share, and they are supposed to ensure that some of this money are actually geared towards or channeled towards flood mitigation. For now, before we go to the NADCO report, allow me to introduce my guest, Oscar Omondi. Karibu sana, Oscar. Thank you so much indeed for making.
Thank you very much for inviting me to talk to this people.
Well, looking at the flood situation, 38 counties. We're talking about only 9 counties that have not been affected by drought. This is one or more or less. I remember a section of northeastern leaders saying that it should be declared a national disaster. Are we there yet?
I don't know, Troy. 38 counties. This is almost more than 80%, because you have 47 counties. Only 10 counties or 9 counties are affected. Mm-hmm. But what are we affected in? This is El Nino. Troy, we're not getting this for the first time. It's a national disaster, yes. Mm-hmm. And the people in Northern County leaders want it to be declared national disaster. Mm-hmm. But it's not a new phenomenon. We've been here before. In 1997, we've had this phenomenon before. So we should have learned a lesson. This is the second time it's happening, or even the third time. Mm-hmm. But we are caught unawares. If I can just go back to chronological situation of the El Nino phenomenon that we're experiencing now in the country. How did it all begin? This all began by the meteorological department sending a warning that there will be El Nino. But there were mixed reactions at the beginning. It was that there will be El Nino or no El Nino. So those are there were mixed signals. Do
you believe where the Met Department, first of all, said that there is going to be an El Nino? Then the government said, yes, it's not quite the El Nino, it's an enhanced rainfall. And do you believe that lapse of communication may have led us to where we are now? Because basically we are not quite prepared.
Yes, what happened is, at the beginning, when there was the mixed signal, there were government preparation meetings. People sat in hotels, There was money that was spent. There was money actually put aside, and there was serious preparation to deal with El Nino. But when now the mixed reaction and mixed signals and the messaging came now when the president picked the point and said, okay, there's no El Nino, there's El Nino. It messed up everybody. And then when El Nino came, even the NGOs, even Red Cross, everybody, when the messaging came from the presidency that actually there's no El Nino, now everything went to disarray. And the preparation stopped. All of a sudden, there's El Nino. Now we are caught in a very bad situation. We are caught without any preparation, without anything. And now we end up with what? Blame games, where government is not talking. There's a problem. The money has been sent to the counties. The counties say they don't receive money. We don't have any good coordination from government that can coordinate the response of the problem that we are undergoing, and it is all chaos. Now roads are being washed, people are being cut off, people are being marooned because of the mixed signals from the word go, then the wrong messaging that there will be a Nino or there will be a Nino now, and all we are caught, we don't know what to do. So there's chaos on management of this thing. For example, when you informed me to come and discuss this one with you, Troy, the first thing I teach, the first thing you do is to prepare.
Yes.
So I started preparing. I discovered that there's nowhere you can get information. Where? Red Cross, Internal Security, Ministry of Agriculture. There's nobody who is coordinating El Nino response to the crisis. Nobody in government, no serious department that we can pinpoint. I don't know if you know of any department that you can go and ask a question that, what are you going to do? There must be a coordinated effort by government, by a department of government. During the Kibaki regime, we had the National Disaster Management Unit under the Ministry of Special Programs. We don't have that ministry currently. So we have internal security doing this thing. Then we have people, somebody is being asked about the CS for roads, being asked about roads. So it is everybody doing everything, and it is all chaos.
And let me play the devil's advocate here. The government, indeed, and the Deputy President did say that counties, you should have at least a kitty for emergencies, and you're supposed to be using that as well because El Nino is an emergency. And in every county budget, there is some money set aside for emergencies just like this. So there shouldn't be the back and forth when it comes to the who should be spending what. Now
counties, the government there was a cabinet meeting yesterday where they are saying money has been sent to the county. That lack of coordination is what I'm discussing about. That when the deputy president talks of counties having money, counties being sent money, governors on the other hand tells us they've not received money. This is crazy, Troy. When we run, for example, I will give you, for example, a family, and now you've sent money, and they're saying they've not received money. So who is who? That type of coordination. And people are dying in this mix-up. I don't know why it should be that the deputy president says they've sent money and governor says they've not received money. So what is happening in between? Even the money that they're saying of crisis, the government should have that money. Somebody should be sending that money. And somebody should be receiving that money to deal with the crisis. But this person who is supposed to receive money is saying, I've not received the money. And this person who should be sending the money, I say, I've sent the money. But people are dying. So that chaotic, everything is falling apart. For example, Northeastern is cut off. The roads. I don't think if the capacity or whatever we're experiencing in the El Nino phenomenon at the particular time should be too much rain to wash out the roads. We should investigate that were the roads done well? Who did the roads? How are they done? Because the rains have been there, right? But now for 2 weeks or for 1 month, should there be roads washed completely like they've been washed? That means that there's even a problem on the contractors who did the roads, which should be an investigation. That should be, it's a fraud. If those roads were done and they cannot be able to be in place when there's just like weather, like rains. It's not serious rains. Although people are marooned, but washing of roads should not be washed out because there's a rain for 1 month. So there's a serious problem. Everything is like NGOs are leading the efforts now. But the NGOs who are leading the effort, there's no proper government coordination. For example, Troy, you can be a volunteer. You want to give out 10 bags of maize. Whom do you give it to? Right? NGOs are going to these places. They don't know where is the aircraft that is given by, for example, the military to take food where. It should have been a situation where, for us to mitigate it properly, there's a situation where government requests, we have a serious coordination at the government level. And we know that people for example, in Isiolo need water. People in Mandera need blah, blah, blah. How can that thing get there? You can't go through the road. Why? Because it has to go through air. How does it go through air? There's an aircraft at Moi Air Base that is transporting that. So if you want to drop it here. But there's no that type of coordination. Because there are 4 things that we need to deal with here. Actually 3. There's the response, there's the recovery, and the resilience. You see, currently in the contemporary, we should be dealing with the response to whatever crisis we are undergoing, right? But even to deal with that type of response, there should be a proper government coordination so that we know. Otherwise, NGOs, everybody goes there. Red Cross will go there, drop whatever they have to drop. After dropping it, when they run out of it, they're done. They walk away. You see? But when we don't have a proper coordination, and we end up with a crisis like this one we're ending up with, it's crazy.
And I'm looking at Red Cross. Yesterday, one of the managers said that they are looking for about 3 billion Kenya shillings.
Yes.
And they're talking about just an El Nino rain that takes about a couple of months. And we are in the 2nd month. These rains, we're expecting them to also continue in the month of December.
Yeah.
And talking about the disarray in how we are distributing or how we are actually responding to this emergency.
Yes.
You think we're going to be able to do that? Or we are over-relying on international organizations and, just like you said, NGOs as well?
Yeah, because if the coordination is NGO-led, I've told you when I was coming for this show, I didn't know where to find information, for example. And whatever you're talking to me about, the rains going to December or the rains going to February, you are speculating because we don't have the right information. Even currently, we still don't know. Somebody is not doing his work. We don't know how to plan. You can't plan of 3 billion and we don't know how long the rains will. Somebody should be able to say that the rains will go up to this long. We knew some of these things. We know about the damages. We know about the structural damages. It's not that we don't know. We knew about people being displaced. We knew all these things. We know that these ones are going to happen. But even now, it seems we're not even prepared for the coming 2 months, for the coming 1 month, for the coming 3 months, because we don't even know. So somebody can shout figures. We need 3 billion. We've given out 10 billion. We've given out, but there should be a good systematic approach to this. It must be government-led. So long as it is NGO-led, it will be chaotic. It must be government-led, backed by proper data, proper information, proper planning, strategy, crisis.
All right. And we are now joined by Honorable Gideon Mulyungi, who is the Mwingi Central MP and also the chair of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee at the National Assembly. Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Asante.
And 38 counties have already been marooned. How is Mwingi, and especially Mwingi Central?
Mwingi is in Kitui County, and Mwingi has been affected. In fact, as we speak, over 50 families have been displaced in Mwingi Central constituency, and over 150 households have been brought down by the heavy rains, and over 20 pit latrines have sunk down in primary and secondary schools. So it is devastating. Infrastructure has broken down, roads, footbridges, drifts have been washed away, and therefore most of the trunk roads which are used for public means have been cut down, and we have no idea of intervention measures. So people are not moving. Businesses have slowed down. Expectant women cannot be taken to hospital. The sick are not able to reach basic medical facilities. And it is, I'm just talking about my constituency. I'm not even talking about Kenya. I'm not talking about Northeastern, where we have seen heavy flooding. People have been marauded by water. And they are not able to access food. I'm just talking about my constituency. And when I compare with what I've seen on television, it looks minor. But you can see the situation is serious.
I'm looking at what the county governments are putting in, what the national government is putting in, and the coordination. Just like Oscar is saying, there seem to be a disconnect in how this emergency response is. I would like to pick your mind on how you've seen the Mwingi Central. Has it received any money from the county government, from the Kitui government, and the coordination of the Kitui county government? How has it been, the response?
I don't know what money you are talking about. What I've heard is ESA from the government that they have set aside 2.4 billion shillings. My constituency and the larger Kitui County, and I believe even Makueni and Machakos counties, none has received a single cent from the government. It is ESA. It is the usual lies from the government. There is no money available. You heard what the contradiction between the deputy president and the governor of Mombasa. When the deputy president visited Mombasa, and he said money has been dispersed to the county government of Mombasa, and the governor was there, and he said he has received no single cent. You can see the contradiction and the lies coming from the government. So I think government should come out clean, tell us where this money is, how it can be accessed, because nobody has an idea where the money is, how it can be accessed, and maybe the president may not be aware. Maybe the money is being looted.
And playing the devil's advocate here again, the government in any county, we have the emergency response committee, and in case of any emergencies, floods aside, the county has its own response mechanism. How has the Kitui county government responded to the floods situation as we are?
Where I come from, Kitui County, I've not seen any single intervention by the county government of Kitui. The only thing I witnessed is when some 15 families, households were marooned by water, and the houses washed away, and those families were not able to leave the place where they were surrounded by water. The only intervention I saw from the county government, after myself, I personally took food and mattresses and blankets to those families. The following day, not even the same day, the following day, I saw the deputy governor taking some food and some blankets to those families. That is the only intervention I've seen from the county government.
Are we relying so much on other bodies like the Red Cross as opposed to counties actually putting their feet on the ground?
Red Cross should actually be the government. I think they are more active and more visible than anybody else, although they have not come to my county. but I've seen them in the seriously affected areas. Therefore, the county government, in my view, may not have received money from the national government, and they are not prepared to deal with the situation. The only intervention I've seen in my county is the national government. The CS has visited there, CS for us house. Penina Malonza has visited my area and distributed a few things here and there. But county government have not seen them at all.
Oscar, you wanted to add something?
I think Troy, the entire thing is based on we are being reactive. We don't plan prior. That's why I told you that is El Nino a new phenomenon in Kenya? It is not. We've been here before. It's a vicious cycle. When we see people in, for example, where I come from in Nyando, being displaced by floods, it's something that happens almost every year. You know, we've not built a resilience. We knew that these things were coming. We didn't build dikes, for example. We've not done dams to stop even the water in Tana River, for example, from blowing its banks, you know. But we only react when we are caught. So even you asking Mheshimiwa if the county, as the county government of Kitui have an emergency response unit, I don't think they have such a unit. I think they might, in their budgets, these things are there that in case of an emergency we can respond to this. But on the ground, I don't think if there is a set aside a department, a full-fledged department of how to deal with this. I will tell you, for example, in the county assembly, I was trying to advise the county assembly of Siaya, and I tell them, like, get a directorate of public participation, because public participation is a major thing in our constitution. There should be a way it is done, a guidebook, a training, and what have you. But they don't have such a thing. So I don't think if there is a county government emergency response, because our psyche, our attitude is not to prevent some of these things. It is to react. And when it becomes to reaction, it leads to wastage of resources. These resources that are being said, 2.4 billion, 10 billion, these are going to waste. It's like the COVID-19 thing, where there were warnings, be prepared. Then we ended up with COVID-19 billionaires. You get me? We might end up with El Nino billionaires tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, money is being brought here, but for what? You get me right? I've told you, if you have a unga today, a packet of unga that you want to give to people who are suffering after watching TV, then you don't have anybody to give it to because there's no coordination. So even the 2.4 billion is going where? To who? Over what? Who is coordinating where? What?
Which county is getting how much?
Which county is getting how much? All right.
Yes. Mheshimiwa, I would like you to have a final word on this because we also have to look at the National Dialogue Committee report. The mixed temperatures between the counties and the national government, notwithstanding, what are some of the mitigating factors that you would like to see, and more specifically in your constituency, Mwingi Central? I'm seeing people
I would not even want to talk about Mwingi Central because Mwingi Central is just one of the constituencies out of 290 in Kenya. I think the interventions should cover the whole of Kenya because these are Kenyans, they are all affected, and the government, although I heard them saying they have organized a multi-agency action plan, I think it is not properly visible. Information is not available to those affected. I've received a lot of telephone calls from my constituents who are stuck in northeastern. They have been surrounded by water. They are not able to get access to food and medicine. The local administration there, they don't know them. So even when the supplies go there, they are not known. The chiefs don't know them. So they are stuck. And we may be witnessing a death, a lot of deaths in coming few days, over and above the 111 that have been reported. And therefore the government should come out clean, instead of contradicting themselves, the president himself came out openly in public to say that El Nino has been downscaled, contrary to what we are seeing, which means he was not properly informed. We have heard him saying that adequate interventions have been put in place to make sure those that emerging crises are tackled. We have heard him say that government has made available resources to cater for vulnerable cases. We have heard him say that NYS and the Kenyan Defence Forces have been mobilized to deal with the emerging crisis. But all these are hearsay. People are still suffering. Roads are cut and disconnected, especially in Garissa. They have been disconnected. There is no public transportation. The only available means of transportation is air. But we are not seeing a lot of choppers hovering around the air and aeroplanes. So the government should be serious and take care of Kenyans in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution of Kenya.
All right, and because of the interest of time, let's now shift our gears to the National Dialogue Committee, which was given a mandate of 60 days and actually was established through an act of parliament on August of 29th to look into, among others, outstanding constitutional mandate, deliberate key issues of interest to Kenyans, which include electoral justice and related matters. We also have entrenching funds into the Constitution, establishment and entrenchment of state offices. And when I talk about state offices, we are looking at the Prime Minister post and also the leader of official opposition, establishment and entrenchment of the party's coalition, and the law on multi-party democracy. That is some of the issues that the committee was supposed to be looking at. And the National Dialogue Committee report recommendations, of which have mixed reactions, and especially from the political elite. They proposed the establishment of the offices of the Prime Minister and the leader of the official opposition to foster national unity. They talked about the all-time high cost of living, which we're going to delve into a little bit deeper. They recommended all arms of government reduce their travel budget by at least 50%. The Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, in conjunction with the Treasury, are supposed to reduce the road maintenance levy and the anti-adulteration levy by 5 shillings and 3 shillings per litre, respectively. They are currently at 18 shillings per litre. The national government finalized the transfer of all devolved functions to counties and provide resources for them. Mheshimiwa will identify with this being the chairperson of this decentralized funds accounts committee. And there are some no consensus over the reduction of VAT of fuel from 16% to 8%, and also the scrapping of the housing levy. Let's call it that housing tax. I will begin with you, Oscar.
Yeah.
I remember yesterday when I was having a shave.
Yes.
My barber, Mr. Mbogwa, said that he's more than disappointed that you guys had more than 60 days to deliberate. You can deliberate about the Prime Minister position. You can deliberate about the leader of official opposition. But you cannot agree on the cost of living. So to him, that is a failed process. And just to echo that, I'm quite sure that identifies with a lot of Kenyans. You do remember Eugene Wamalwa and also Martha Karua have also raised concerns in regards to how the NADCO, the National Dialogue Committee, canvassed the cost of living. And I'm quite sure a lot of Kenyans identify with this. Do you believe that the NADCO did exactly what they were mandated to do? They used taxpayers' money, millions for that matter.
I think, if you ask me, NADCO did what they were supposed to do.
So the 100%?
100%.
Okay.
The only thing is that your Baba and you, who are not understanding this, were not really exactly what you expected, did not come out because we didn't know the type of negotiation that we're going through. In a national dialogue, although they called it a national dialogue, it was not a national dialogue. It was an elite dialogue. In a national dialogue, if you remember, Bomas of Kenya, where we had more than 1,000 delegates, the Mamambogas and the borders, whom we call them of this world, were represented. Their voice was heard. Yes, you could see our women group leader from Marsabit traveled all the way to go and attend the delegates conference at Bomas when Yashpal Gai was there and they're discussing that is a national dialogue committee. It should not be less than 1,000 people. And this has happened in Ghana. There was a national dialogue like that one on that side. But when you have 10 people, 5 from which side?
And political divide.
Political divide. And there's no arbitrator in the center. There's no Kofi Annan, there's nobody. There's no Yashpal Gai who is trying to arbitrate their issues. This is just elites who have come together to come and discuss their issues. Mheshimiwa will tell you here that maybe one of the things that they really wanted to get there is NGO, CDF to be in the constitution. That was agreed, right? Issue of prime minister position, that was agreed. Issue of opposition leader, that was agreed. What was not agreed was only one issue, which is cost of living.
Now that's what Kenyans want.
But that was the only thing that belonged to the people. Get me right? The elite agreed on whatever their issues were because it was not a national dialogue, it was an elite type of dialogue. It was about the elite agreeing, what do we do? How do we share our differences at the political level? So you, Baba, thought that that was a national dialogue. It was not a national dialogue. It was an elite dialogue. Otherwise, where did we start? When did the rain start beating us? You see, even the cost of living is not a new thing here again. This thing started in, I think, approximately when the prices of foodstuff started going up was around late 2019. After the impact of COVID, then came the Ukraine war. Then after Ukraine war, we had economic crisis here, which crisis, the economic crisis that we've had here, then we have now El Nino, and we might end up with a La Nina after the El Nino, which we are not prepared again. So things are going to get even worse. Then we had an election. You see, so more than 5 to 10 million Kenyans are exposed because of high rate of cost of living. People who went to the street went because of their frustration, because they couldn't afford to buy foodstuffs. I tell you, for example, currently, Troy, the local Mwananchi uses almost 80% or 90% on their earnings to buy foodstuffs. People are taking debts. People are taking fulizas, not to buy anything, not to buy something like books. They're taking that one to buy food. That means that this thing is out of control. And the elite who sat there, I thought also that they really know what they were doing there. They've given us a medicine. But to treat what? If you have malaria, don't take antibiotics. But whatever they're providing are antibiotics for a malaria, for cost of living crisis. So whatever they did there was not what they expected, what the people expected, but what they wanted, because it was elite type of negotiation. That is how it goes. Do a research on it.
Yes.
It's always like if the elite sit down to discuss issues, they discuss their own and agree on their own and how to solve at that level.
Mheshimiwa, I would like to pick your mind on this. Oscar says that in case of a dialogue for the elite, they accomplished that. But for the cost of living and Wanjiko, that was a 0%. How would you rate the National Dialogue Committee? They had more than 60 days to sit and talk about some of the issues that are quite pinching the Kenyan. And in some of the things that they have agreed on, we still Kenyans are going to be pinched even more. I'm talking about the Prime Minister position and also the leader of official opposition. That comes with an office, comes with staff, comes with facilitation like vehicles and offices. How would you rate the NADCO report?
You know, I come from the opposition, Azimio. And when we went to the streets, we were very clear on what we were pushing for, because the government refused to listen to us. And there were only 4 items that we were pushing for in the streets. And that was the audit of elections, because we were sure that Azimio won, and we wanted to know exactly what happened, so we wanted that to be done. The other matter was the reconstitution of the IBC, which was done entirely by Kenya Kwanza alone. And we wanted us to be involved so that it is a bipartisan process. A referee is not appointed by one side. The other matter that we wanted to address, and which was the main matter, was the rising cost of living, which before election was not an issue, but immediately after election, everything started rising up after Kenya Kwanza removed subsidies on a lot of things. The other matter was the fidelity of political parties, because when Kenya Kwanza took over, they poached members of parliament from the opposition side so that they can garner the majority that is required to pass bills in parliament. And those are the four issues which we were pushing for. And therefore NADCO was formed. Of course, there was that initial bipartisan talks which collapsed because each side came with their mindset on what they wanted, and they could not come to a middle ground. Then came this the NADCO talks, which were led by Kalonzo and who is my party leader and the leader of majority from Kenya Kwanza. And in my view, although I do not want to preempt the position of Azimio, we are holding a parliamentary party meeting tomorrow to deliberate on this matter and agree on the way forward. And what I say here is my position. It's not the position of my party or the position of the coalition parties. What I think is that the main issue which ought to have been addressed was the cost of living, and it has not. We are still left where we are. We will still continue witnessing the cost of living rising up because it has not been adequately addressed. When you reduce the fuel from 5 shillings to 3, or levy on fuel from 5 shillings to 3, you have done nothing. Because when Kenya Kwanza took over, fuel per litre was 80 shillings. It has gone to over 200, more than double. So if you are talking about from 5 shillings to 3, that is a drop in the ocean. So you are telling us nothing. And therefore, in my view, there was no consensus on the cost of living, which was one of the main agendas of the Azimio demonstrations. And therefore, the only matter that seems to have been addressed are elite matters, as you say, elite matters, which don't touch on the ordinary mwananchi. When you entrench CDF in the constitution, you have not assisted the common mwananchi. We still have CDF. We can still continue operating the way we have been operating. So you have not helped anything by entrenching CDF and bringing GAF. You are now even going to the coffers, public coffers, even more by bringing even Senate Oversight Fund. You are overtaxing the common mwananchi even more, with due respect to the senators. Even when you bring the Ward Development Fund, which is very key, that's why you have been seeing governors fighting with the MCS, because MCS do not have a kitty to manage. They beg the governor. It is a noble idea, but the timing is wrong. The first item of the agenda to be addressed is the cost of living, not to dig deeper into the public coffers to get money for Ward Development Fund, which will not reduce the cost of living. And therefore, in my view, I think the resolutions of the talks falls below bar. It is below the expectations of Kenyans, and as you say, creating the office of the official opposition and the Prime Minister is not a priority. It is going to dig deeper
to the Kenyans' pocket.
To the Kenyans' pocket, and the Kenyans will still continue feeling the pinch of the cost of living. The Mama Mboga will not be assisted in any way by these talks. The Boda and the Asola in general.
And we're expecting the leader of Azimio, Raila Odinga, to also be making a statement on Thursday. But before then, Oscar, you're still a researcher.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the Ward Fund being entrenched in the Constitution, and also the Senate Oversight Fund being entrenched in the Constitution. Isn't this conflict of interest? The reason being, the Senate and the MCAs are supposed to oversight the county. And now they have a kitty of their own. I believe that's conflict of interest.
It's conflict of interest, but we just have a parasitic elite, very parasitic elite, that are too selfish, and it's all about making more. And people want to become billionaires. Nobody wants to become a millionaire anymore. People want to become billionaires. Because for me, what I thought, and what I will suggest to Mheshimiwa here, because people are suffering. When people are suffering all over the world, they are emergency. We need emergency response. People can't afford to buy food. So Mheshimiwa, what you're talking about is things like return back the subsidies. We need things like serious tax cuts. For example, on power. Cost of power is above our people's risk. We need things like social protection nets, like cash transfers. You should send money to these people's accounts. You know, such things need to be policies, and those things are what I expected. 3 things I expected maybe to see to deal with the cost of living crisis, because it is not, we're not expecting to have it maybe long term. We need emergency responses to this crisis. And emergencies, like, it has to happen today. These people need to eat lunch and supper. We need to eat 3 meals. Their kids were out of school, not because they can't afford, not because of school fees or anything, but because they have nothing to eat. How will you send your kid to school when you've not eaten? So when I talk about subsidies, tax cuts, and direct cash transfers, you see, some of these are members of parliament, for example. Even the Azimio talk that are going to have tomorrow, these are members of parliament. They get phone calls from their constituents. Mheshimiwa, dawa ya mtoto. Mheshimiwa, you know, some of these things, we need concerted policies that can deal with these emergencies, because they are immediate things that are supposed to be addressed. In the short term, the long-term things, that reduction of what, those are long-term. But we need the immediate things to deal with this cost of living crisis, to address it. Wage bills. You know, people are out of jobs because of impact of COVID-19. People cannot fend for themselves. So what we need to do is to come up with serious mitigation measures.
All right, and still on the same, the Finance Act decision, or the court was supposed to pronounce itself today in regards to the Finance Act that was challenged in court by a 3-judge bench led by Justice David Majanja. They are giving their verdict on the case that was filed by Okiya Mtata and his co-petitioners in June of this year. Let's first of all cross over to the Milimani Law Courts and have a listen.
Issue number 1 has 3 sub-issues. Issue number 1 is what procedural requirements pertaining to the legislative process of the finance bill at Iron 2. Sub-issue number 1 is whether the finance bill is a money bill in terms of Article 114 of the Constitution, and whether it contains matters outside the scope of a money bill. B, whether the finance bill requires concurrence of the Speaker of the Senate. C, whether the estimates of revenue and expenditure were included in the Appropriation Act in accordance with the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act. Issue number 2 is whether public participation whether the public participation conducted was sufficient. Issue number 3 is whether certain taxes cited in the petition and as enacted by the Finance Act 2023 are unconstitutional. Issue number 4 is whether Section 84 of the Finance Act 2023 introducing housing levy is unconstitutional. Issue number 5 is what reliefs, if any, should the court grant in the circumstances. And issue number 6 is who should bear the cost of the consolidated petitions. I now go to the issue number 1, whether the finance bill is a money bill in terms of Article 114 of the Constitution and whether it contained matters outside the scope of a money bill. The petitioner's contention is that the finance bill contained matters that were outside the scope of a money bill, while the respondent's position was that the matters the respondents complained of were incidental to a money bill. The court is therefore called to consider the meaning and place of a money bill in the legislative process. A money bill is provided for and definition given under Article 114 of the Constitution. We have provided the citation, but I will not be going through that because that is a constitutional provision that you can look for. The High Court in Evans East Africa Limited and another versus Chairman of Betting Control and Licensing Board and 7 others considered the meaning of a money bill and said as follows. A further test is to examine the purpose of the bill. The teeth and substance of the impugned legislation can be decided by examining the purpose of the bill. The preamble of the Finance Bill 2017 reads an act of Parliament to amend the law relating to various taxes and duties and for matters incidental thereto.
That's a live feed from the Milimani Law Courts. There on your screen is Justice Lawrence Mugambi. He's also joined by Christine Meoli and also Justice David Majanja giving their verdict on the Finance Act that was challenged by the Busia Senator Okia Mtata and other petitioners. And of course, we are keeping tabs with what is transpiring there in that court, and we'll be back with a more comprehensive report in our subsequent bulletin, but we have to wrap it up now, unless I can give you like 5 seconds each to wrap it up so that we may cross over to the Sakafa Under-18 Championship where our boys Kenya are playing Rwanda. Start with you, Mheshimiwa. Just 10 seconds.
You know, as we opposed the finance bill, the finance bill was passed by force through the tyranny of numbers by Kenya Kwanza, because the provisions of that act was going to increase the cost of living.
Okay.
And that's the matter that we are addressing, and therefore we still don't support it, and we hope that the court may dismiss it. Yeah, may stop the implementation of that.
What do you think should happen now to the NADCO report? Because we really need to wrap it up.
In my view, I think the NADCO report should be returned back
to sender.
So that they can address the pending issues. Yes.
Oscar, 10 seconds.
To wrap it up, number 1, issues to do with floods. Let's get a clear recovery process to recover what we've lost.
Okay.
Not recovery, but let's a clear response. Let there be a department that is dealing with coordination in government so that we get back people in their places.
Okay.
Recovery, also on the roads. And then let's build a resilience. Let's build dikes. Let's plan for future.
All right.
And on NADCO, nothing to write home about. On finance bill, again, we are waiting for the response. It's been on and off.
All right, thank you so much, Oscar Omondi, a political analyst and also political researcher. Just next to him we have Honorable MP Gideon Muliongi, MP for Mwingi Central and also chairperson of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee at the National Assembly. We wrap it up here, but we are now crossing over to the Sekafa Under-18 tournament where Kenya is facing Rwanda in their second match. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. I'm Ben Troy Njue. Lensa Odingo has been my colleague on the bottom right of your screen.
Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs and is scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums.
From the dawn of independence to the present day, Kenya has journeyed with strength and determination. We celebrate Kenya at 60. As we mark this incredible milestone, KBC and Jamboree present an unforgettable celebration of culture, music, and awareness.